um pouco sobre algumas distinções em inglês entre she, shit, beach, bitch, math, tipo assim, o que vocês quiseram. Então, vou
Ó, um
repetir em
volta em
inglês.
inglês só. Volta aí, gente. Inglês, inglês. Um, dois, três, inglês.
Tudo em inglês até agora. Quem
Tem
tá
11
lá,
pessoas, eu só tenho 3 votos.
faz.
Tanto faz, o neutro, uma bolinha, um P.
Ah, ok.
Tem
Já é
alguém em
suficiente.
inglês, outro.
Bora fazer em inglês, né? Let's do English. We got almost
Tem
everyone said
alguém que é
English.
absolutamente contra inglês, que não vai entender o conteúdo, que tá super revoltado. Oi, Dust, good. Tem um americano que também é inglês, então vamos fazer inglês. Ó, já deu um monte de inglês aqui. Quem não se manifestou, porque não quis. Já deu opção. Ok. So yeah, I can start explaining. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, no worries. So basically, yeah, there's often you can have a gap in your production or in your perception with sounds. Both are related. Production of sounds and perception of sounds, speaking and listening are coupled. They're related. But a lot of the time, perception is where we start. We need to learn to hear differences. There are a lot of times when you hear two words in English, sheet, shit, or ear, year, and if I ask you which one did I say, you might just guess. You might not be able to tell the difference unless you have the rest of the context, other words in the sentence to help you differentiate it. But when you're just listening to the sounds by themselves, it's very common for foreign speakers of a language to have a hard time with any distinctions in sounds that don't exist in their native language. So, for instance, in Portuguese, you might not care whether someone says dente or dente. For you, it doesn't change the meaning of the word. It just gives you optional information about where the speaker might be from. It's accent, it's not pronunciation, would be one way to think about it. But in English, that difference, ch versus t, is actually essential because it's not just about where the person is from. It's no longer optional information, it becomes essential information to distinguish different words with different meaning. For example, two, like the number two, versus chew, like to chew food.
Two. Ok.
It's different. Oftentimes, Brazilians struggle with this. They say, I need to think, I need to go to the store. They're speaking like chew, like they're chewing food. Chew, chew, chew. What are you going to do? To do today. They're often, that's a very common error for Brazilians, is they've collapsed those two sounds and they're just using ch for everything. So you need to acquire this new sound in English and have them be distinct. So chew versus two. If that's not clear to you, it might help to think about, again, in Portuguese, the difference in accents between quente and quente, and use that to help access these two different sounds. Even if
For us, it's really, really meaningful. The can't, can't.
it
Like,
is really,
my family, like my boyfriend's called Larry. My family can't say Larry. They say Larry.
uh-huh,
Larry, Larry.
yep,
So for us, sometimes it's the difference because it's native, it's
yeah.
very common, like, oh, denti, 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 denti. But in English, it sounds that we don't know. That's why we can't make the difference, like distinguishing, like which one is each. Now I'm better on it, like I'm better at it.
Can we use you as an example? Are you willing to be a student here? Because you
Of
don't speak
course,
perfect,
I know, and
but
I'm the person that say people I need to improve. Yeah, so tell me.
okay, so let's use you as an example and we'll learn together because other people are going to have similar challenges, I'm sure, and maybe we can all learn together. So let's kind of do a little test, a little, not a test, like, no pressure, but like just to check what are your
Yeah,
current patterns. So like, can you say two?
two,
Yeah, that was good. Now say chew.
chew,
Yep, now say two again.
chew.
Yeah, that was similar. It's tough because they're similar. So see if you can separate them. Do one that is chew, like to chew food, and then do the other that is two, like the number two.
Say chew, chew,
That's getting there. Yeah.
chew, chew.
Yep. Now try repeating it. The one that's the number two. Try saying that like two, 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 two.
chew. No, the one or chew.
Not the chew food, but the two,
Okay,
like the number
chew,
two.
chew, 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 chew.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Now try going tut 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 tut.
Ta, 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 ta.
Yeah, it's close. The interesting part is it's not perfect, right? So this is where we can help make things more distinct. We can get you more aligned with how Americans say it. Because right now your T sound is a little bit more, it's going to be tough for me to describe it in a way that's
And I learned,
but
I
it's
learned
different.
in Ireland. I was doing a live with an Irish teacher, and I realized my accent. They
Yeah.
say like they don't say the th, They say
Oh,
like teacher. They don't say teacher. That's why I just like I never missed this. No one has ever
the
corrected me.
TH like in words like the and
Yeah, they don't say da.
theater.
They say da. Yeah,
They say
neither.
it different, yeah. Yeah, every accent's different, and that's part of what's beautiful. And that's where there's not really one wrong or right way. Depends on your goals. So
And
is
they're
there,
native. They're not native. They were stolen. Like the. Oh, I say I'm sorry, the queen, but she just stole their language. So
uh,
I think they got revolted. Like, oh, we're not rebellious. We're not going to say,
oh, like
the.
they consciously decided we're gonna do it different.
Yeah,
Maybe,
I think
maybe.
exactly like this. Yeah,
I'm guessing it
they
probably
say
evolved.
that they always, huh?
I'm guessing it probably evolved naturally instead of like a conscious decision, but maybe I don't know the history. Like there could have
Yeah,
been
they
conscious.
wanted to keep their language, and the queen just went there and say no more Irish, just English now.
Uh-huh. Huh.
Yeah, they started teaching kids in English, and they became to be like speaking English. So the Irish. Is almost dying. They're just old people and
Oh yeah,
some, yeah,
it is tricky. I know how to say Will is my name in Irish.
well,
I believe
yeah,
Will is Anam Dom.
autumn dome, yeah. So there, if you go to the countryside, you hear like stronger accent, almost Gaelic language.
Yeah, it's very strange, I agree. And it's beautiful to learn. Anyways, though, let's go back to the
Yeah, let's go back.
so to help connect that though, remember there's not just one wrong or right way. There's many different accents. There's many groups of native speakers and many groups of non-native speakers. And so I suggest instead of thinking about right or wrong, just think about your goals. Is there a group of people that you want to integrate with? Is there a group of people that you want to participate with, where you want to join in the conversation that's already going on? So pick that group, or it can be multiple groups, and just start learning their patterns. So instead of thinking about right or wrong, instead, I recommend thinking about pattern alignment, pattern acquisition, getting familiar with and getting closer to their patterns of speaking in that particular group. It's not right or wrong, it's just a different color, a different flavor. There's many different colors in the world that you can choose to paint with in your life. So with my accent in American English and so-called general American English, we have this difference between the ch sound and the t sound. And the t sound is where I'm noticing that your version of that sound is different than my version. And if
Yeah,
I can help you notice that difference, that'll give you the chance to start adjusting your sound to be more like my sound if you want.
to
This
be
is all optional.
Americana.
Yeah, this is all optional. You don't have to do it. People will understand you most of the time if you're saying, I want to go to the store. Like, you can understand because you have the rest of the sentence to help get
No, I
comfortable
want
with it.
my boyfriend's watching me. He will be proud of my American accent.
Yeah. And that's the beautiful part is I say it's optional, but if you're like me and you watching this live, if you're like me, you might be someone who you don't care if people say it's optional. You still want to do it. You want to sound like a native speaker. Like you're excited. Like you want to get as perfect, as close as you possibly can, no matter how long it takes. If that's something that excites you, then we think similarly. That's what I try to do in
In my past,
every accent.
I didn't want, but maybe now, maybe I would like because when you were in the US, to be honest, I'm sorry, people treat you better when you sound more native. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
it's real.
she's American.
People don't want to admit it because it's an ugly,
I
imperfect
know.
part of
I
being
felt
human.
it. So like, oh, if you speak really like an immigrant, they was just like, dirty girl, you know?
Yeah,
No, I'm
people
sorry.
people will judge you. Sometimes the judgment will be positive, sometimes it'll be negative, but there will be judgment because it's an event. You stand out. If you have an accent that's different from what people are used to, they immediately notice that just intuitively, immediately, without having to think about it. As soon as you open your mouth, they
Because
hear
you're
it.
different. That's all. You're different. So you're not one of them. So it's like she's different. She's
Yeah,
the last, you
outsider,
know?
not one of us. They assign you a group membership in some way. It might be a
Yeah.
positive group assignment, but it might be a negative group assignment. They're gonna, use stereotypes. They're gonna assign you to some group mentally that they're familiar with, or they're gonna, if they haven't met someone with your accent, maybe they'll be open and curious. Some people find accents cute. Some people like it. But then there's other low tolerance environments where people are in a hurry. They're in a line, they're the customer service agent at an airport, and you're just the 100th Brazilian today to not speak English well, who needs help with some freaking thing. And
Yeah.
you're like, Jesus, like,
Yeah, maybe they
what are you
can
trying to
start thinking
say? Like,
like this. Yeah.
some people won't have patience.
Good morning. Someone from India saying good morning, good morning. So yeah, so that I think now I have this mission. Will maybe I will try harder to because before I say my accent is my identity, but
Yeah.
I would like to be able to sound as a native as well. You know, if in case I'm going to live in the U.S., like if me and my dear boyfriend decide to go further, I don't want to suffer this. You know, I really don't want to.
Yeah, so I think I do still think it's optional. You can survive, you can communicate, you can do great things with an accent that is a strong accent that is, people can still understand most of the time, and you can definitely live that way. It's optional. But yeah, if you want to try to integrate deeper and deeper, reduce the friction in the communication, maybe even pass as a native speaker so that people think you're one of them, it is
Yeah, so
possible.
just to don't have this headache, you know, like, oh, today I want to be like a native. So you just behave and that's okay.
Yeah, it's really tough to do. It's a long journey, but it is possible. I know Brazilians who have done it. I'm working on doing it in Portuguese. Actors do it in movies. They are able to pass as a native speaker. It is possible, but it takes work. It's not an instant thing. Um, Also, you brought up an interesting point with accent being your identity. That's also a huge thing. There's a lot of people who don't want to lose their accent because it's part of them. It's part of who they are as a Brazilian, and that's totally valid. Sometimes what I offer there, for one, you're going to do what you want to do, and I don't need to convince you. Some people want to acquire a new accent, and that's great. I can speak to them. And for you, maybe you just learn, you can use the same methods and maybe not go as deep. Maybe you just work on improving your pronunciation, speaking more clearly, but you still want to have a little bit of that Brazilian flavor to it, and that's fine. But another perspective is you don't always have to think about losing an accent. You can think about getting more flexibility, more skill with your speech in general, and having the option to add additional accents, as many as you want, to learn to, in a certain situation when you're speaking with, trying to get an interview and a job, maybe you speak with your best American accent as well as you
You
can.
know, one thing, a client, a student of mine, his son lives in the US and he works in a bank. And they asked him to do a course to neutralize his accent and sound American.
Yeah, accent
Because,
reduction, they often call it.
yeah, exactly because the clients wanted an American to attend them, you know.
Yeah, again,
So,
the judgment's real. Certain jobs, certain life situations, it's more important. Other situations, other jobs, it's less important. Depends on what you want.
yeah, so I just think it's great to be able to do it. Like it's an option. It's not real. It's no longer like a, you know, you're not slave of the situation. Let's say, today I want to sound more American, so let's do it, you know.
Yeah. Another interesting angle, real quick, that I've seen. There's someone called the Holistic Psychologist on Instagram who's got, 2 million followers. She used to be an actual professional, licensed therapist. And then she became unhappy with some of the traditional ways that therapy was done. And she created kind of this new approach to things and started sharing that on Instagram. And it grew really quickly in the last year or whatever it's been. One of the things that she said is actually relevant to this. And I thought it was a weird way of thinking about things, but started to make sense to me the more I thought about it. And I wanted to share that. And she basically was claiming personality. It, One second, my mom's calling. Yeah. All right, I'll be on in a bit. I'm doing a live. Um, so she claimed personality is conditioning, which is kind of a bold statement. Um, and you may not agree with it, but I think that there's something useful in that perspective to think that like what makes us who we are, our identity, our personality, on some level, that really is truly something about us for real, and we can be attached to that. And there's something beautiful about that. And we don't want to lose that. We want to keep it. And I think there's something beautiful about that, about personality of an individual person or the culture of a group of people. There's something beautiful about that. We don't want to lose touch with those, that vibe, that flow that we each have. But at the same time, it is interesting because we are kind of a product of our environment. It is conditioning in some way. And in some ways, it's superficial. I think that there is, in one way of looking at it, a deeper version of ourselves that transcends our personality, that transcends our accent, that transcends our language. Just because we were born in a certain country, a certain family, doesn't necessarily define who we are in our most deep essence as a human being. And so I think that there is something, it's a mix. There's something real about our identity, the way we grew up, our native patterns of who we are, our personality, our accent, all of that, that's real. But I also think there's something beautiful about seeing that there's also something deeper than that, and that there's a possibility to not have to be attached to that permanently all the time, that we
Yeah,
keep
to be
flexibility.
an individual that's changing often, and that's okay as well, yeah.
Yeah, we can learn new dances, new ways of speaking, new ways of moving through life, new ways of talking and relating and communicating. And
A question
yeah,
here. How do Americans deal or judge the British accent in terms of understanding and acceptance?
yeah. So it depends on the accent. There's a lot of British accents, but like stereotypical, like received pronunciation British and like fancy sounding British accents, we often think sound intelligent. And if we hear someone giving a TED talk or a
Is it
speech
posh?
or
Is
narrating,
posh?
maybe posh, yeah, I don't know. I need to learn more about it. I don't really know what posh is, to be honest. But all those sorts of things that have like a sort of, there's a certain vibe. I don't know how to define it, but I know it when I hear it. Certain types of British accents, even me, I naturally like, oh yeah, this person, I should trust them. They know what they're talking about. It like has a sense of authority to it for some reason. There's other British accents that are more like, yeah, that don't do that. Like, I don't know, maybe be like Yorkshire or what do you call it? Uh, the one where like I forget what the name for that accent is. There's like so many accents in Britain. I don't know in the UK, but I don't know them all. But some of them have like a higher perceived status in the US, and
Status. Yeah, I
others
know.
don't. So it depends. But
Like,
definitely there is a sense of like authority and status, and like, wow, that person's smart. I should trust them just because of their accent for certain accents.
it's like I told one teacher once, a really rich guy that I met as a colleague, he told me we have a British maid. It's like it's the extreme of the luxurious, like luxurious, you know. He's from Kuwait,
Oh,
and he
nice.
say we have a British maid. It's like Jesus, she British maid is like an intellectual cleaning my house, you know. That's the way he said, you know. I feel the same way, you know.
We had a
Like you
question
said.
here. Gabriela saying, do you think it's possible to sound American not living there? I think that there's no guarantee, but is it hypothetically possible? Is it in the range of what some people might be able to achieve with enough work? I think so, because again, it's not necessarily about your geographical location. It's more about your contact with the language and your approach. So if you're listening to enough, you got a filter on there. That's funny. Suddenly, that's awesome. Yeah, I
Sorry.
should add one on as I'm talking. Let's see. I'll answer the question and add something on here. So yeah, it's important to so stupid. I'm gonna take that off for now. Too distracting.
I was trying to read the box here, so like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. So okay, focusing. So if you have contact with the language and you're obsessed, you're dedicated, you got to go deep. It's deeper than most people are willing to go. You got to know, you got to care about the way that you sound, not just about the language, but also the sound patterns. But if you focus on those things, if you do it well, you go deep, yeah, you don't have to live geographically in the US if you can get enough contact with the language, um, which probably means listening to lots of native speakers, imitating them, getting feedback both from yourself, doing self-assessment, and ideally you really want to create social connections, actually speak with native speakers, have conversations, get feedback even from natives, which won't always be quality feedback, like telling you exactly what is and isn't wrong or right, but the closer you can get to that, the better. They can tell you like, yes, that word sounds native, or no, it's, I don't know what, but something's off. Like, anyways, all these things put together, not everyone will do it. It takes a long time a lot of the time, but yeah, I think it's technically possible because we all have the
And you
same.
better don't do it with someone that is not into language, because they can be annoyed, like, oh, why this person wants me, you know?
Yeah, it helps if there's a win-win for whatever reason. Sometimes it's because they care about language, sometimes they're attracted to you, sometimes it's whatever, like, but there's got to be a win-win. People, yeah, most people, you can ask a lot of people to help correct you and they'll say, oh yeah, sure, but then they never do, or they forget, or whatever. So when you find that special person who's willing to actually focus and help
It's
you,
awkward
they're
for
worth
many
so
people
much.
correcting others, eh?
Yeah, it's awkward because it interrupts the flow of the conversation. Like if I'm speaking with a friend, even a friend who wants help, I'm not going to correct every single little error because we can't. It's not going to be a conversation. What could happen is record their voice, literally like 2, 3, 5 seconds of voice, and
You'll be
then you can do a
pointing
detailed
afterwards.
analysis and say, all right, in this word, this sound, these were off, this sound were off. But you have like 15 sounds every second. There's so much detail that you can't possibly catch and correct it all live in a conversation. It totally destroys the flow. So you get just occasional feedback is what you'll normally get, and people often forget and they don't want to interrupt the flow. So yeah, there's multiple things affecting that. Anyways, though, yeah, I do think it's technically possible to acquire an accent that is so good that you at least occasionally and more pass as a native speaker without living in that country. I do think it's technically possible. You just have to acquire the patterns and get close enough that natives can't tell. It's a technical challenge that is possible, I would say. Um, Even though a lot of people will not get there, it is possible. Let's see what else. And then actually, I'm gonna have to go eat here, so I want to make sure. Let's actually circle back
Yeah,
to the
so
start.
say the
She did.
words like
Yeah, yeah.
briefly.
Let's do that. Yeah. Um, I get so excited about questions. So yeah, let's dive into that. So I've already given some of the theory in the background about creating distinctions, needing to create uh, gaps or cracks in your perception, so you can create you know so it doesn't seem like just one sound, chew, chew. It should instead split and be chew and two. Sometimes you need to create new distinctions in sound and perception, and then also align. Instead of having one target, now you have two targets, and now you need to get better at hitting the bullseye so that you can hit that target. Like for you, I think you have the beginning of that distinction between chew and two mentally. I think you on some level recognize that there's a difference, but I think it's not
I do.
it kind of floats around. Your targets are a little bit ambiguous. Sometimes they're, you still kind of have two targets, but it's not quite like the how it is in my mind as a native speaker yet. And specifically when you go for the t target and the word to, I think that your mental representation of that and what your physical target is for that sound with your tongue is different than what mine is. So you end up doing a different tongue position. You end up doing it differently. You're probably perceiving it differently and ultimately producing that sound different. So your target for that to sound, I think we'd still need to work on that and get you. It's sort of like tuning a musical instrument. We're a little bit out of tune. We need to hit that target more accurately. So some of the ways we would do that, by the way, which is going a little bit beyond the scope of this live, but real quick, like if I was working with you one-on-one as a client, we would do a bunch of what I call focused feedback loops. Like we'd be sending each other WhatsApp audio. You'd be saying to as well as you can, and then I'd say it my way, and we'd both listen to each other's audio, and we try to get closer and closer, like try to make it so that in your mind, you can start to actually hear and notice the difference between how you say it and how I say it. and I try to show you the differences, like create a continuum of sounds. Like you're doing something a little more splashy, like instead of two, it was something a little more like two. I'd have to hear it again to try to imitate it.
Two,
Yeah,
two,
two. Say it again.
two.
Two. Yeah, you're kind of two instead of two. Two,
Oh,
two
two,
instead of
two.
two.
I can do both. I need to train as well, no?
Yeah, so you we're all physically capable of doing it, unless we have some sort of disability or, something that's different in our anatomy or our processing or. But as long as there's not a
How
disability, then
about well,
we're all physically.
wheel and wheel?
Yep, that's another good one. All right, so yeah, let's move on to some other distinctions. So chew versus two. The first step to wrap this up, just know that there is a difference there. To improve that difference, you got to keep doing some work to train it and hear examples of both and practice it. Do feedback loops with yourself, with natives, with content, and create that distinction and hit those targets. But the first step in all of this, wheel versus well, uh, version versus virtue, all these
Or
things.
wheel versus well.
Yeah, wheel
Okay,
versus well. The first step is always just knowing
well.
that there is a difference. Even if you can't hear the difference, you got to know that there is a difference. And then from there, you want to go start getting contrastive input, start listening to examples of both side by side, so you can start creating that difference in your mind, give your brain a chance to actually notice the difference, make it more obvious so your brain can hear it, and just keep training with it. So wheel, will. I'll show you the difference. Obviously, you just heard it when I said it now. The biggest part here is the vowel sound. So in wheel, how do you say wheel? Is it roda or something else?
Pneu,
Como?
roda, pneu.
Are those two options? They're both.
Ok, will
Yeah.
de futuro,
Uh-huh.
future, and will, like,
Oh yeah, I'm talking like in a car, like the wheel of a car or a bike. How do you say that in Portuguese?
a roda ou pneu. A roda ou pneu.
Okay, I got it. I'm just gonna say roda because that's the word that I know. So wheel, roda. Will is, my name or the future verb like vou fazer, like will. So I'll do wheel here, will here. The main difference, arguably the only difference, is the vowel. Here we have E, here we have I, wheel, will,
Will. Ok,
E,
will.
we, we. So it's the same difference as sheet, shit, eat, it, beat, bit, heat, hit, wheel, will, I. So you'll start noticing these distinctions in sound transfer to many different examples in English. So this is the same as sheet and shit. It's just a different context. You have different, it's the same vowels and you just put different consonants before
I
and
know
after.
this one. Shit, shit.
That's pretty good. Your sheet was a little bit off, which is common for Brazilians. You need to make it more
Shit,
sheet.
shit,
Say it again.
sheet,
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 sheet. That was better. Say it 3 times.
sheet, sheet, sheet. No, I feel bad saying this.
It's okay.
Sheet, sheet, sheet.
Yeah, someone who just comes into the live immediately and they see you going sheet, shit, shit, or whatever. It's
Yeah,
kind of
that's what I'm saying.
funny. Sorry, you
That's,
don't. By
no,
the way,
I felt
if you
awkward
don't,
with this one. I'm sorry,
yeah,
guys.
if you don't want to repeat anything, you're not. I don't want to
No,
force
not
you to
this
say
one, not
anything.
this bad one. Boston, no boss, like shit, poop.
All right, yeah, I don't want you to feel bad about. I'm very open about, but yeah, I understand. With no context, someone might get the wrong impression or something. Um, but yeah, basically, there's always natural variation. So that's part of it. Is
But
your
you
your
can explain you, I don't mind.
Yeah,
Just
sure.
me.
So sheet. You want to imagine that you have like this continuum, right, of vowels in space, vowel space, which is basically how high is your tongue, and it's also which is your tongue in the back of your mouth and the front. But part of the continuum in vowel space is how high or low is your tongue. Neutral is kind of in the middle. Your tongue's relaxed. You can also move your tongue up and you can move your tongue down. So I. One is your tongue is very high in your mouth. E, and then is your tongue is a little bit lower. Technically, your tongue goes back
Eh,
a bit too, but yeah, basically it's high, and then the other one is still high, but not as high. So both of them, your tongue is higher than, if your tongue is relaxed in the middle, both of these sounds are going up somewhere higher than the middle. So you're using your muscles to move your tongue up. But there's a difference in how high and exactly where front to back your tongue is. So E, when you go to I, your tongue relaxes a bit. So E is a more tense sound. E, your tongue is higher. It's in a more extreme position. E, and then I is a more relaxed position. Your tongue goes down a bit, and it also goes arguably back a little bit, more towards schwa, the most relaxed sound. E, so it centralizes sound. E,
So when you say schwa, can you explain exactly what it
so
is?
schwa is a big fancy word. You don't need to remember the word. Just imagine, so if you imagine like a square, and that's your mouth, and it has 4 corners, we're using that to imagine our mouth. Basically, these are the 4 corners of our mouth, the 4 most extreme positions that your tongue can go to in terms of the anatomy that you have. So you can move.
So girls, Natalia is calling. Girls, are you going to let us ask something? Yes, we say it all the time. You can ask anything.
We don't always do a good job of noticing the questions in the chat, but you can ask anytime you want, and we'll try to notice. Yeah, we need to.
No, I'm trying to catch the questions here. Will, could you repeat the name of the website? I will type here. Wait.
Youglish, yeah. Go ahead and type it, yeah. Anyway, so, and we can try to answer some more questions. I'm gonna have to go here to eat pretty shortly. But so imagine that your mouth is a box. You have 4 corners that represent the most extreme positions that your tongue can go to. So naturally, you have the boundaries of the box are high and low. So you have high positions and low positions. And then you have front and back. So you have front positions and back positions. So your tongue can be high front, that's one corner. Your tongue can be low front, that's another corner, which is somewhere like something like that, where your tongue actually goes below relaxed. There's sort of like a little, like if you my tongue goes down below the relaxed position a little bit, and that can happen in the front or in the back. In the back, it would be like and then high back would be ooh. This might have been a little bit confusing, but the point is your tongue has sort of the most extreme positions that can go to, and that defines this box. So and now within that box, that's the vowel space, our tongue space. We can move our tongue around in that box and get a bunch of different sounds. And right in the middle,
Jesus,
it's kind of confusing, right? But most people don't think about things this way, but it can be helpful. You don't have to know this, by the way. Remember, you can just listen and imitate. You don't have to know what your tongue is doing. You don't have to know all this stuff. I didn't know most of this stuff when I was learning Portuguese and Spanish.
So wait, could you please say a comment above question? Which one is it? There's so many people saying here. Wait, Matias. Can you repeat your question, please? Sometimes they struggle to have a native accent, can take a long time. I have studied the accent and I find on dictionary, grammar, and some English app. This is the way I create my own accent. Is it, advisable?
Let's see, I'm trying to find that.
I didn't understand.
Let's come back to that one in a second. Remember it, and we can scroll back to it and answer it in just a second. But to kind of finish, because we were trying to say what is schwa, and I'm giving a big, long description. So let me try to finish this up and try to make it simple, because I'm almost there, and I don't want to leave that question unanswered, because schwa is actually important. Basically, you got this box, right, that I've defined. Right in the middle is the most relaxed position your tongue can be in. So your tongue has a bunch of muscles. When you use those muscles, you can move it to those extreme positions in the 4 corners, or you can totally relax your tongue, basically use none of the muscles, and your tongue's just kind of sitting here, limp, like a slug, just kind of relaxed, chilling out, tranquilo, right in the middle of your mouth. So that would be kind of like, I know it's weird to like show you my tongue, but like if I show you extreme positions, it looks more like, and that last one you can't see with the light, but the back of my tongue goes really high. So those are the kind of the 4 positions that your tongue does. But if your tongue is relaxed, it's just kind of sitting in your mouth. And then if you make a noise, the sound that comes out when your tongue is totally relaxed is the vowel that is right in the middle of vowel space. And that's what people call schwa. So that's roughly, and that's a sound.
It's very complex, I agree.
Americans do when we're thinking of what to say next. And that
Ah,
was
okay. Okay.
yeah, because it's a really relaxed
Uh,
sound. It takes almost no effort. It's just your
okay.
tongue is totally relaxed in your mouth. That's the sound that comes out when you do that. So
Gotcha.
that's what schwa is. And a lot of sounds, by the way, have a more extreme version. Like when you learn a word like to, you learn, okay, to, like I'm going to the store. You learn it in a separated, isolated form as to, and the vowel is oo. And that's a more extreme vowel, high back vowel. But then when Americans actually speak in full sentences, we almost never use that full extreme version of the vowel. We centralize everything, which means we make it less extreme. Instead of the four corners, we squeeze everything in towards schwa. We make everything more relaxed, except when we need to speak clearly. So certain words that have emphasis, certain syllables, or maybe the entire sentence if the person is older, younger, if it's hard to understand, then we'll make things more extreme selectively to make it easier to understand. But generally, when Americans speak in full sentences, everything a lot of it gets sort of simplified, relaxed toward the center of the mouth. So instead of to, I'm going to the store, it becomes more like ta, ta,
Ta. Okay.
the
Ta.
schwa sound, ta, ta, ta. And that T sound
So
can change.
pink trombone shows a good illustration with able to play with synthesis.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
totally.
Thank you.
What's it called again? I know it's something trombone. I've seen that too. I just forgot about it.
Pink trombone.
Yeah, pink
Oh,
trombone.
trombone.
Yeah, Google pink trombone. Go play around with
Okay.
it. There's a lot of stuff like this, but yeah, pink trombone is a good one.
So yeah, the answers, the questions. I try to write them down back.
Yeah, so you had a question I said I was going to answer in a minute. It was something someone was asking about their approach and if it was advisable. Where was that one?
So sometimes they struggle to have a native accent, can take a long time. I have studied the accent. I find on dictionary, grammar, and on some English app. This is the way I create my own accent. Is it advisable?
Yeah, so I'd have to talk to this person more to know. I mean, for one, it would help to listen to you to hear your current accent. Because what you're describing to me is your strategies. And I don't know, there's kind of two things. What are the strategies, the things you're doing? That's part one. And part two is what is your current accent? So at the end of the day, what most matters is what is your current accent. But the process to get there, you're asking me about process. So I don't know what your current accent is. Maybe you're really good already and your accent is close and you're just really perfectionistic and you're trying to get better. That's common. Or maybe you're still have a big gap and your accent deviates significantly from native speakers. And then that would be more concerning in general for anyone. And either way, though, we can look at process. So it sounds to me like you're focusing a lot on conceptual approaches and written approaches. You mentioned dictionaries. What else did you say? Grammar, certain apps, things that
Yeah.
to me tend to be sort of more isolated, uh, more biased towards the written approach, which if I may be misinterpreting, so feel free to correct.
So
But accent is a spoken thing. You can definitely use IPA and symbols and written things to help understand it and explore it. But at the end of the day, you got to ground everything in audio, in actual spoken speech, because accent is something that is spoken. It lives in the actual actions of creating sound. So you gotta. I highly recommend to everyone I work with and myself in every accent language that I do, it's heavily, heavily, heavily focused on not on dictionaries, not on reading about rules. It's about listening and imitating. And so that's, 80, 90% is listen and imitate. And then the last 10, 20% is sure, we go and get some instruction. We focus, we try to learn contrasts, we use symbols and things, but that's supplemental. The core, the foundation of everything, and my approach that I use is to listen to natives and obsessively imitate. Record your voice, compare it to native speakers, try to find differences, really listen closely with an open mind, curiosity of a child, obsessively try to find those hidden differences between your accent and the native accent, and keep recording your voice and comparing it until you can't hear a difference anymore. Then get feedback from natives so you can go even deeper.
So last two ones. People don't know where's the box. The box usually is here, like it's, say Q questions and something. It's just on the bottom of the line.
Yeah, is it still there?
The
Should I see it? I don't know if I see it either.
no, as another girl, any tip to don't say beach and beach.
Yeah, let's do that. So it's the same as sheet and shit. It's the same as wheel and well, or wheel and will. Excuse me, wheel, will. It's that distinction between e and I. So again, if you have like schwa and vowels that are relaxed in the middle, not low, not high, but a relaxed tongue position, then we're talking about two different vowels that are both kind of high vowels. We need to develop a distinction between those. So e and I, e, I. So beach, bitch. Now, once you have that distinction, once you realize there are two different sounds, now we have to tune it, kind of like tuning a musical instrument or learning to sing on pitch. You got to develop sort of a reference point in your memory from listening to many native speakers saying both of these sounds. You need to sort of burn each of those vowels into your memory so that it persists and you can access that sound whenever you need it. You may
To
not be able to
beach,
access this
bitch.
separate way. Like it may take a while to be able to just access it cold out of nowhere. But I think the more important thing is to be able to naturally access that sound when you're deep in the flow of that language. Because the way my mental model of how language and accent works is you get into a flow. It's not as driven by conscious conceptual things as a lot of people think. I think it's more a bunch of interconnected flow. Kind of like if you ever play a piece on piano, if you play a musical instrument, maybe you've memorized a song and you can play it. But if you miss a note in the middle of the song and you get stuck and lost, you might have to restart the song at the beginning. You might not be able to start the song in the middle because your memory isn't necessarily just a bunch of individual reference points. It's sometimes connected through a flow. Sometimes you got to enter in the flow and flow through it. And I think that language and accent often it's useful to think of it as sort of one of these flows.
So
So
you want to train this one like with me? This I can.
oh yeah,
This is popular, you
beach
know.
and bitch. Yeah, if you want, we can do it. I'm trying to get
So,
my chat window to disappear here, but anyways, you wanna train those words real quick with you?
yeah, just to give an example, like of the Brazilian person say, you know,
Yeah. So let's hear you try to say both. So first, praia, beach. Say it 3 times.
beach, beach. I'm going to the beach. I'm going to the beach. The
Sounds
beach
great.
is beautiful.
Yeah, there might be a
Good.
little bit of polishing we could do there, but actually it sounds great. Sounds really good. Now let's say the other one, which is palavrão, whatever in Portuguese.
That person is a bitch. She's a bitch.
So that's the one we need to work on. That is not
Bitch.
distinct enough from.
Okay.
It sounds like praia when you say it. It's very similar. So we need to create a
She's a
bigger distinction.
bitch. Bitch.
Close. So here's part of what's happening. There's kind of two kinds of vowels in a way. There's vowels that are static and there's vowels that are dynamic. What I mean is there's vowels that so remember, vowels are tongue positions. You can have a vowel where your tongue stays in one spot the whole time, e, I, or you can have vowels that are moving, where there's, for instance, in English, in the word face, it's not just face, it's face. The vowel goes
Face.
a.
Face.
The same thing happens in Portuguese. Depending on your accent, some people will say a vowel more like eh. Some people might say like, well, I don't know. I need to learn more Portuguese to do this, but hopefully you can think of examples in Portuguese where in one accent people say, I don't know, galera, era, and maybe someone else says galera. Like, yeah, it's a little bit different. There's a little bit of like, sometimes it's static, sometimes it's dynamic, and the vowel moves. So that's part of what's happening here. When you say the word bitch, not praia, but
Bitch.
palavrão, when you say bitch, I'm hearing it be either almost the same as praia, or
Okay.
you're kind of
Something in the middle.
moving and you're saying like be. I'd have to hear it to imitate it. It was like
But
bitch or
I mean, I need to
bitch.
hear you, and then I will say
Yeah.
like
So try imitating this. Go. Eh.
eh, eh.
Pretty good. Now let's play with this. We're
It's
gonna move
kind
it.
of hard.
Yeah, it's hard. Most people don't practice this.
Eh,
Now let's play with it. Let's go a little high and a little low. So now go. Try to match me. we're gonna play a game. I'm gonna make a noise and I want you to try to imitate it exactly. Don't think about Portuguese, don't think about English. Forget all of the sounds you know. Just be like a baby and try to imitate the sound as exactly as you can, no matter what sound it is. I'm not gonna do anything crazy, it's just gonna be like E to eh and sounds in between. But just try to imitate exactly if you can. So here's the first one. E
E,
eh
é,
eh
é,
eh
é,
eh
é. This one is hard. É,
e
é,
eh.
é.
So what I'm
Very
doing is I'm
hard.
kind of randomly, we have E kind of up high, then we have eh kind of more in the middle, and then there's a continuum of possible sounds, and I'm kind of randomly sampling, giving you different points in that continuum. So we have E, ah, or I'm
So
not doing this perfectly, but
beach.
E, there's a whole bunch of possibilities, and we want to train you to find not high, and not low, but right perfectly where it needs to
É,
be. Eh.
é, é,
See, that was a little low, I would say. It was a little more like ah. You kind of combine ah with eh.
é. It's really hard. I would say I'm better like at trying to imitate 100 times and recording and
Yes,
listening.
everyone is. It's natural. So don't feel bad. It is hard. It takes practice. And it's not that you're slow in this or
It's
anything.
also
This is
because
how
I'm
we
reading
train
more questions here. It's just like, I'm sorry. Sorry. Some we will answer more some questions because we'll need to eat, yeah.
you. Yeah, I do need to eat. All right. So, anyways, do you guys see, you who are watching, and you, Gabby, also, do you see how doing this kind of process, training your awareness with sounds and listening to native speakers and imitating them, how just if you do this enough and you focus on it enough, how you'll naturally get better over time,
This
generally?
prolonging the sound is, I say prolonging the sound is really hard for me.
Do it more. It'll help you. Explore it. Be curious. That's the number one thing. Be curious about how sounds work. Explore it in your native language. Start saying words slowly and, prolonging the vowel, like you said, and start doing it with English and start trying to explore it and start listening to native speakers. Find videos on YouTube, put it at 0.5x speed, 0.25x speed. Start noticing
So there's the
singers.
last two questions here of a
Sure.
guy. Does it really matter? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
That's
Does
okay.
it really matter to have a good accent? That's very relative. It's not a discussion here. It's not a discussion. It's just about what Will does, yeah?
So I think it's a good question. And he asked another good question. Some people say non-native speakers do have an accent and it shows their identity. Do you agree? So these are really common questions. They're good questions to ask. And I think that there's not just one right answer. I think it depends on how you personally view the world and what your goals are. I think that an accent is not inherently a bad thing. I think it can be a beautiful thing. It can be a social signal for where you are from. It can help people know what group you are a member of.
Oh, I think I got the question wrong. Yeah, now I understand.
Oh,
Sorry.
you're interpreting it differently? Yeah.
Yeah, I was. I'm sorry.
So it depends on your goals. I don't think you have to have an accent that sounds exactly like a certain target group. For example, native speakers who speak with the so-called general American accent. You don't necessarily have to match those patterns. It depends on your goals, right? You can sound Brazilian, you can sound Iranian, you can sound whatever. At the end of the day, intelligibility is what is most important for a lot of people. But in some cases, for whatever reason, some people want to go beyond. Maybe that's because you have a job or something in your personal life where you believe there's a reason to go beyond. In some jobs, if you're like an air traffic controller or you're speaking on the radio as a police officer or something where it's very important to be understood without repeating yourself and you want to match the patterns of the group of the people that you're speaking with, it might be helpful, whether you call it pronunciation or accent or whatever, to get closer to the patterns of the people you're speaking with, because that can I view intelligibility as not just being a binary yes no thing. I view it more like a continuum, sort of like how much friction is there in the communication. So how deep do you want to go? The closer you get to aligning yourself with the patterns of a target group or groups, the easier that communication is going to flow with them, because you're matching their expectations. You all have a common language, a common inventory of sounds and patterns. So things aren't deviating as much and things naturally flow. You kind of enter the mind of those people and they enter your mind more naturally without as much friction. So that's a potential advantage. But again, it's not necessary. It depends on your specific situation. Another thing to keep in mind that we mentioned earlier in this live or the other live is humans aren't perfect. So yes, most people talk about you don't need a perfect accent, just intelligibility, just communicate, da da da. But if you've ever wondered, why didn't I get that promotion? Are people judging me? What do people think about me? There's not a clear 100% answer. Maybe there's no way to know for sure. But I think we all are aware humans do judge other humans based on many factors: appearance, attractiveness, accent, smell, many things. Some of them we can control, some of them we can't control, but we do judge other people. We make quick judgments that are often unfair, and that can affect things. So the way that you relate to that and change your behavior based on that can vary. Again, this is an individual thing. It's your life and you choose what you want to do and how you view it. But I do think that accent is one of those things that factors in to how people perceive you, and that allows them to make judgments that sometimes are positive and sometimes are negative about you. And it's also something that can be controlled much more than people think. So I think that it's useful to offer hope and methods for changing your accent, for changing your pronunciation if you want. Again, it's optional. You don't have to go as deep as I do, but even just a little bit will probably make a difference in your life. There's kind
Yeah,
of a long answer for those types of questions.
yeah, like I mean, before we finish, it's like the way you pronounce is gonna guide the way you understand it. And if you're not pronouncing correctly, you probably won't understand so well. So to understand better English, in order to improve your listening
Yep.
and your speaking, pronouncing better is essential in this process, I think.
Totally. Yeah, it's both ways. Perception and production are coupled. So speaking and listening improve one, the other tends to improve with it. All right, I should go eat.
Yeah, so yeah, we're just about to finish this live. Guys, thank you so much for being here. And I apologize. We apologize if we didn't answer everything maybe in the way you wanted. But feel free to send message, like direct
Follow both of us.
messages.
DM us if you have questions we didn't answer.
Yeah, DM us, feel free to DM Will, and we hope, yeah, we hope we could help you. When I'm tired, I don't work so well, my brain, so.
And about some of those differences I didn't cover, like we talked about sheet, shit, wheel, well, will, beach, bitch, a couple of these things. Those were mainly around the distinction of E versus E, one particular distinction in sound. There's others, right? Versus which you see in words like bed versus bad, meth versus math. And then there's ones in the back of the mouth too, instead of the front, like pulp versus poop. All these back. So you don't want to ask for poop in your orange juice, you want to ask for pulp, right? But
Yeah.
it's all the same process. Even if we didn't cover those exact, specific distinctions, take the lesson from this live that it's the process behind that. So again, like teaching someone to fish feeds them for a lifetime. Giving someone one fish feeds them for a day. So I gave you a fish or a couple fish, but more importantly, you can get more fish on my profile. There's that. So you can go see a bunch of videos I've done
Yeah.
about other distinctions.
Yeah, guys, if you don't follow Will, just go there and probably you can do these videos that we're mentioning here, like, because you do always like shit,
look through my
fish.
stuff. There's a lot where I do the same kind of thing. Here's this word, here's another, and you can
I
repeat the
fish
video.
the shit, No, I'm kidding.
More important than all of that, though, because that is important, but most important, though, is for you to develop your methods for improving, developing your curiosity, your mental models for, okay, there's distinctions, and some of those are hidden for me, and I need to create the distinction and then tune them. Like, this way of thinking is very important. And also, remember, the foundation is just listen and imitate. Don't need to overcomplicate it. You can forget everything else from this live. The most important thing, listen to native speakers or whoever you want to sound like. Listen to those people and then try to imitate them.
Shadowing, yeah?
Yeah, shadowing is one specific technique for doing that, where you repeat kind of like immediately after, like simultaneously usually. So
So
you're
now
listening to one ear and then
I need some pictures. So I will do the eyes here. I do this in lives, and you do the mouth, right? I do like
oh
this.
yeah.
Yeah, and you guys can take a print
Can you get
screen.
closer?
Yeah, just the mouth
You need to back up though, right?
up like this. You
Yeah,
up, more up,
you should move back, right? Because our heads are different. Mine's tiny and yours is big.
like this.
It's closer.
Yeah, just a bit more up. You.
All
No, I
right,
say
all the way.
up. That's bit better. Yeah, I did it.
You got it?
I got it.
Awesome.
I like it.
All right. But to wrap up that last point, I gave you some fish. There's more fish on my profile, but the learning how to fish is the key. And listening and imitating, that's the foundation for all of this. Listen and imitate. Just keep doing it. It takes time, but you'll get better.
That's it. And let's have a dinner. So,
Yeah.
bye, guys.
Speaking of
Have
fish,
fun.
I'm hungry.
And if you need anything, just let us know. I'll
All
see
right.
you.
Yep. See you.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
And